Welcome to the Prophecy Club. A startling title today: How Trump is being used to kill Christians. Now wait a minute. Now let me explain. As I've already explained many times, I voted for Trump 3 times, and if I could vote for him the fourth time, I would. I like him. I think he's honestly trying to do right. But we all saw him, how do we say, snookered by Anthony Fauci talking about this big virus, okay, and it wasn't true. But nevertheless, he was there believing them. And as I said the other day, the big challenge for the future is not going to be, can you tell right from wrong? It's going to be, can you tell right from almost right? Sometimes that's more difficult. In other words, is it black or is it white? Well, it's easy. But what about if it's a light gray? So my topic today is how Trump is, my opinion, being used to kill Christians, or another way to say it, how AI data centers are tracking with the eventual objective to kill resisting Christians. First of all, let me show you something I just saw. Again, I memorized the book of Revelation in 2017, but I just got another revelation. I just saw something deeper in the scriptures. Let me show you. Revelation 13:4. And they worshiped the dragon, and that would be the devil, Satan. They worshiped the dragon, which gave power to the beast. The beast would be the Antichrist. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? Okay. So that's telling you that one of the things that the Antichrist, he comes to power peaceably by flatteries, Daniel says. But when he is in power, one of the things he does is actually several wars. So he's not a man of peace, he's a man of war. Let's go on. And there was given to him a mouth speaking great things. That's also spoken of 2 times in Daniel, which I think I just mentioned in yesterday's program. Mouth speaking great things. And God gives him that mouth. And that means that he is supernaturally good at speaking. Like David Phillips said, his words caught him. Ken Peters said that he had never heard a man speak so powerfully. And power is given to him to continue 42 months. That's time dividing of time, or 3.5 years, or 1,260 days, however you want to cut it up. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. Now, here's the point. And it was given to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. So, one of the things when the Antichrist comes to power is make war with the saints. I think that is Dimitri's prophecy when the Russians attack and destroy America in 1 hour. And power is given him over all kindreds, tongues, and nations. Now, that doesn't mean everybody takes the mark, because it goes on to qualify it. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Now, let me show you the revelation. And the 10 horns, okay, so who are the 10 horns? Well, it starts off with the European Union, but it doesn't stop there. It forms a world government. In other words, they take the 7 continents, divide them into 10 kingdoms. And what it says is, and this is the revelation I just saw, when those 10 nations are formed, that's the world government, as long as it's 10 nations, okay? World government, not just European Union, but when the world government has divided the 7 continents into 10 global regions, the stopwatch starts. That's the revelation. I never saw that before. Let me show you. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour. There it is. That 1 hour is actually 7 years, or the 7-year tribulation. So what that's saying is, when we see the 7 continents divided into 10 global regions, that starts the time, that starts the 1 hour, that starts the last 7 years. So when that's big. I never saw it that way before. So I think that's very, very important, because that's a big question. What is it that starts the tribulation? Well, when the first seal is opened, but how do we know that? When the covenant is confirmed, but how do we know that? Well, we will be able to spot when there is a world government in which the 7 continents have been divided into 10 global regions. Now, let me show you what else. So, let's look at that verse because that's going to tie in with what I'm going to say today. So it says, they've received no kingdom as yet. Okay, what's it saying? It's saying that the 7 continents divided into 10 global regions, then they are given power for 1 7-year period. Now, I want to look at that word power. I looked it up. In the Greek, that word is exousia, and it means power of choice. Specifically, the liberty of doing as one pleases. Now, that sounds like freedom of speech. And the way I read this verse and this verse is that when the Russians attack and destroy America, the freedom of speech is removed. Well, that sounds pretty logical to me. So then, let's keep going. Verse 13. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Now, what does that mean? It means that those 10 global regions all give their power and great authority unto the Antichrist. These have one mind. In other words, all the 10 kingdoms just basically bend the knee to this guy, Antichrist, and shall give their power. Now, that's another thing. See, the power in verse 12 is not the same power word in the Greek as in verse 13. So look that up too. The word for the verse 13 power is strength, power, and ability, or inherent power, power residing in a thing by virtue of its nature, or which a person or a thing exerts and puts forth, or, here it is, power for performing miracles. By miracles, he'll deceive many. Okay, so that's, now we understand what that power means. So let's go on. Moral power and excellence of soul. So when it's saying he gives his power unto the beast, I think that's talking about that all the world hands over their nuclear weapons, all of the military, everything. They give their power, they give their wealth, he rules the world, okay? Then, these have one mind, shall give their power and strength unto the beast. The definition is the power and influence which belong to riches and wealth. And Daniel says, and he shall divide the land for gain. By peace he will destroy many. So we're probably talking about when the Antichrist comes to power, first thing he does is start a big war. And the big culmination is when he takes out America, when the Russians attack us about 4.5 months before Armageddon. And that's when a lot of really, that's such as what sits not man worth upon the earth and never shall be again, the worst time on earth. Now, let me just say, if you have an IRA, 401k, do yourself a favor. Call these guys, 800-200-GOLD. Don't lose your life savings. From all the prophecies, what the prophecies are saying is the dollar's going to die. I know. We look at it and say, no, we're doing pretty good. Yes, that's the way it is. You're doing pretty good till the day happens when you're not doing pretty good. It happens in a day. 800-200-GOLD. Now, let me tie this together. So I looked it up. Data centers by country. I'm about to talk a lot about the data centers in America because this is where we live. But this chart is showing you that it's not just America doing these data centers. Yes, Trump says America is leading AI and America's got to continue to lead the world in AI. Well, is that really a good thing? Is that data centers, are they really a good thing? We're going to talk about that today. But what I want you to see in this chart is that how many data centers around the world? It's not, yes, America's got the most by far, but is that a good thing? I'm going to show you, I don't think so. And I'm going to show you that it's a worldwide thing. Like Henry Kissinger said, he who controls food controls the people. Who controls energy controls whole continents. He who controls money controls the world. This has to do with money, has to do with tracking, has to do with control. Now, that's the global picture. But if you look at the bottom, it says the top 5 countries are USA, 3960. We already have almost 4,000 data centers which is more than basically all the rest of the next 5. But this chart says that we have already 5,381, and that's still more than the next 9 countries combined. We've already got a lot of data centers. Why do we need more? Well, so we can search the internet a little faster, so we can watch videos a little faster, so we can pass our emails a little faster, or so that they can track and monitor every person, every purchase, every step, everything you watch, every email, everything. If it flies through your phone, goes through the air, goes through either copper or fiber optics, it is all tracked, monitored, and recorded. You've heard it said that the internet is forever. It is. If it goes through the internet, it's all recorded and kept forever. Now, if you look at these 9 countries, add up that, and I did, it comes up to not as much data centers as we have in America. And I thought this was another interesting chart. Global data center market growth. In other words, this is just how fast these data centers are growing, how many of them are going up. So in 2024 is 242 billion, 25, 269, but now they expect it to be 584 billion by 2032. This one says that the revenue in 25 was 527 billion, but they expect it by 2030, that's just 5 years, to be about a 1/3 more. It's big, big, big. Now, the interesting part of this, and I want to spend some time on this, go over and look at the bottom left, 2024. Now, if you see there's 3 shades, and I had to look it up, and I've got to explain what this actually means. But I want you to look at the different shades for now. We're going to dig into it in a minute. Look at the different shades of the different color. The GPU data center, AISC data center, and hybrid data center. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is complicated. I don't know if I want to listen to this. And to tell you the truth, I started to turn away from it too. I'm not a numbers guy. I don't understand this stuff. And frankly, to a certain degree, I don't want to understand it. So I understand you feeling that. But I did a little research, and the research I found was pretty scary. And in this case, like you've heard of the books out there, Math for Dummies. In this case, I did some research understanding data centers for dummies. So I'm going to break it down so you can understand the dangers of data centers, because there's a real danger. Okay, so here's what I did. If you look at the bottom here, expected to expand CAGR. I can tell you what that is in a second. 21%. They're expecting a 27% growth in these data centers, just going through the roof. Why? It's not so we can have a faster internet, so we can get our videos and our pictures and our social media. It's not for us. It's for the Antichrist. So I looked it up. First of all, if you look at the top line there, see where it says GPU data center? Kind of on the right side, the very top line, GPU data center. Okay, what is GPU? So I looked it up. What is GPU data center? You don't have to pay attention to part of it here. Look at the yellow. It says these AI factories are facilities that focus on processing thousands of calculations simultaneously. I know you're thinking, no, you don't understand. Trust me. Thousands of calculations simultaneously through parallel processing, rather than executing tasks one by one in a sequence. Now, if they're trying to track every person on Earth, what do they want? They want to be able to have it tracking all of these things all at once, not just all of the computers doing one job. They want to have many CPUs tracking many things. It goes on to say how it differs from traditional data centers is they run basic databases and processing standard web traffic. Okay, we're familiar with that. No, yeah, we got that. However, this is part of the problem. In contrast, a GPU, there it is. See the top right there? GPU data center. A GPU data center introduces thousands of small specialized cores designed to split a single massive mathematical problem into small pieces and compute them all at the exact same time. Well, you'd be saying, yeah, well, that's not exactly tracking people, is it? No, that's not exactly tracking people. But what that is doing, well, the good side is that maybe that will help us to get to the moon. Maybe that will help us to find cure for cancer and stuff like that. But there's a dark side. Hang on. Significantly more electricity to generate. Now, this is part of the problem. Because these CPUs, just like your computer in your home, it has a fan on it. Well, fans work for some, but some generate so much heat they don't. So these CPUs, when you've got row after row after row stacked up, I mean, just try to imagine thousands of these computer chips all as tightly knit as they can, because the further apart they are, that causes a problem, because then it slows it down, because the electronic signal has to move from one chip to the other chip to the other chip to the other chip. It used to be that was done by copper wire, but now mostly that's all fiber optic, because light is faster than electrons flowing through copper. Now, I know I'm kind of showing my ABC, my basic understanding of this, but I'm a prophecy student, and what I'm bringing you here is something, if you'll stay with me, is pretty important. Okay, so anyway, so they're extreme power delivery. They're very power hungry. Liquid cooling, however, allows direct chip-to-chip cooling or immersion cooling to prevent hardware from overheating, means it can move faster. Multiple service nodes to function as a singular unified computer. Okay, that we understand that. So they have a lot of computer chips in a lot of buildings, but it tries to function as all one chip. That can be, again, used by the Antichrist too, but let me show you something. So then I kept reading. Primary uses: artificial intelligence, machine learning, high-performance computing, but here's part of the problem: financial risk analysis, pharmaceutical, molecular simulation. Well, we'd like for them to find a cure for cancer, cures for Alzheimer's, and the other diseases, the very, very terrible diseases we have. Big data analytics, advanced rendering. Hang on. Now, the next question, let me back up to the chart. See, the top one was GPU data center. The second one says AISC data center. I never heard of that before either. So I had to look it up. Here's what I said. Okay, what is an AISC data center? Well, that's a specialized facility packed with application-specific integrated circuits, chips permanently hardwired to perform exactly one computational task at extreme speeds. And this is the highest possible energy efficiency with the lowest latency. What's latency? Okay, let's say you type in Prophecy Club and you click return. Latency is from the time you hit return until the time that image pops up on your screen. That's latency. How long does it take for that request to leave your computer, hit the CPU, and return to your computer? That's the latency. Now, the speed of the chip might mean how long it takes to calculate up the answer and things like that. Again, I'm not an expert on this. This is my understanding. I'm doing the best I can here. Let's skip on down. Core architectural difference, the power of hardwiring. Skip to the yellow part. If an AI algorithm changes fundamentally, an ASIC chip cannot be rewritten through software. It must be physically replaced. So let me back up here. The CPU data center will be used more for tracking and monitoring us. The AISC data center is going to be more for the good side, would be finding a cure for cancer. How do we go to the moon? How do we find a carburetor that gets 150 miles a gallon? Or how do we find free energy or something like that? It's one tasks that all of this computational is working towards. Let's go on to the next one. Next question. How can AI and its data centers be used not in the best interest of the public? I was curious to see if the AI I was asking, which was Google, if it would really answer that, and it did. AI in its data centers can be weaponized or mismanaged to harm the public through severe environmental strain. Well, frankly, I don't care about the environmental strain as much as it's reasonable, but at the same time, we don't want to destroy our planet either. Okay? Mass surveillance. Bingo. Well, that's what we were suspecting from the whole beginning here. Mass surveillance, cyber warfare, and economic displacement. What's economic displacement? It means that AI and robots are going to be replacing most jobs. Okay, let's take, for example, you used to cut leather, sew it together, and you used to make fine shoes. Today, robots can do all of that. As a matter of fact, a couple of months ago, I put out a whole program talking about the robots. Robots can do just about anything a human can do, just about anything. I'm going to guess probably conservatively 90, but probably more like 95, 98% of what a human can do, a robot can do. But the difference is they don't need light, they don't need air conditioning, they don't have to go to the bathroom, they don't need raises, they don't need promotions, they don't need days off, they don't get sick. And if they need a repair, a robot repairs them. If they need a recharge, they recharge themselves. They can work 24 hours a day, 365 days a week. They don't care that it's a Sabbath you're supposed to take off. They don't care. So a robot can far, in most jobs, far outstrip any human. Mass surveillance, cyber warfare, and economic displacement. Because these data centers act as physical brains and fuel stations for advanced algorithms, their immense scale amplifies both digital and physical risks. I don't think these data centers are to help us. I think these data centers are to enslave us and kill us. No, not this year. Probably not next year. But what about 2030? You know, the World Economic Forum says by 2030 you'll own nothing, but you'll be happy. And the way China works it is, if you're a good little Chinaman and you do what you're told to do, then you get extra credits. If you're a bad Chinaman, then you get credits taken away. And that may mean you can't buy as much food. Maybe you can't ride the rail car today. Maybe you can't get on an airplane. Maybe your child can't go to the better school. It has to go to the lower class school. Or maybe your child can't go to that school. So there's all kinds of controls it could be bringing in. Let's go on. Okay, environmental degradation and resource depletion. I'm going to skip a lot of it, just go to the yellow. It's going to drive up energy costs. How's that? Well, when these data centers come online, the biggest thing they're going to be needing is more electricity. The second thing they're going to be needing is water. And you may be saying, yeah, well, so? Well, a lot of places are lacking water. And it starts using a lot of that water up. And then if they don't, now Trump is trying to get them to make their own energy generating stations as they build the AI centers. They make their own electricity, make even more of it, so they can sell it back to the grid. I like that idea, but that's not the way it's done around the globe. But it's still going to be costing a lot of energy and a lot of water. Energy and water. But again, it's not for helping us. It's for helping them. Them for what? To make money? No, they already got all the money. They got their own printing press. They don't need us. They don't need money. What do they want? They want control. Why is it that the 150 mile per hour, getting a little off subject here, why is it 150 mile an hour carburetor was never released? Some of these free energy, anti-gravity, those kind of things, many people say, have been discovered, but they haven't been released. Why? Because they want control. They want you to have to go to them for your electricity, go to them for your gasoline, go to them for anything and everything. Let's go on. I'm running out of time here. Actively derailing global climate goals. Okay, yeah, well, I'll skip that. Let me go on to the next thing. Hypersurveillance. Now, here's the problem. An erosion of privacy. When controlled by authoritarian regimes or predatory corporations, AI data centers become centralized engines for tracking and controlling populations, us. Total surveillance without public consent, unjustly targeting specific demographics, limit freedom of movement, restrict access to financial services based upon automated risk scores. As I said, if you're a good little Chinaman, you can buy groceries. If not, then maybe you can't. Data centers can be turned into digital weapons. AI clusters make it cheap and fast to generate highly convincing fake videos. We've seen that. Audio and text can be deployed to manipulate elections and destabilize democratic institutions. GPU and AISC data centers concentrates immense power into very few hands. Only a handful of trillion-dollar tech giants can afford to build modern AI data centers. This creates a digital oligopoly, hard to say, where public discourse, information access, and technological processes are dictated by corporate interest rather than public good. AI can be deployed overnight to abruptly displace millions of cognitive and creative workers, us, worsening wealth inequality before safety nets can adapt. Train drones and robotic systems can select, target, and execute military strikes without human interventions, removing human empathy and judgment from the battlefield. You remember Brandon Biggs? He's the guy that saw Trump shot in the right ear 3 months before it happens. He said God showed him that there would be drones in the sky flying around looking for every person. And if there was a gunshot out in the woods someplace, it would hear it and go to that location. When it found a person, it scanned them for the chip, but they didn't have the chip, then it stayed with them wherever they went. As authorities were called, authorities arrived, and either they took the mark or they lost their head right then. No discussion, no arrest, no right to remain silent. Don't even get arrested, okay? This is one picture of the U.S. data centers. And in closing, take just a second. See where you live. Is there a data center going up around you? I've got them all over where I live in the DFW area. Here's a different chart. I thought this was interesting. I wanted to bring this up. Look, does that look like just about every place in America is covered by a data center? And if that chart doesn't scare you, look at this one. They're every place. Every place. 800-200 gold, especially if you have an IRA or 401k. 800-200 gold. When the suitcase nukes, I didn't say if, I said when the suitcase nukes go off, if you want your car to start, if you want your computers and your refrigerators and things like that, anything with a computer chip to work, you want to have one of these from EMPShield.com. EMPShield.com. And they have videos up there. It takes about 10 minutes to put on. It's not complicated at all. And if you use the word prophecy, promo code prophecy, you get a $50 discount, and it helps Prophecy Club.